So I'm not sure if this is the biggest question on your mind, but it's the biggest question always on my mind, and that is, when is Bitcoin going to peak this cycle? In my opinion, we're in the middle of a bull run still, and I know we've had a healthy retracement here, and it's been actually a rather large retracement to where it hurts. And that's okay. That's normal. And maybe even a bigger retracement will still happen. We'll see how this plays out. But I'm always asking myself the question, when is this bull run going to end, so that I can make my decisions accordingly? Now, I've been thinking along the lines of it is likely going to peak sometime later this year. But I always leave room in my thinking for maybe my underlying assumptions are incorrect, and I always take in new information to figure out, might I be wrong? So I've been asking myself the question with this big pullback, is this the end of the bull run? My conclusion for myself is it's not. Now, this isn't financial advice. We all get to make these decisions for ourselves. I'm just an investor myself. I don't have a magic crystal ball that tells me these dates. But I'll share with you the math I'm using to look at an updated way of thinking of when it might be and why, and the math behind that suggests it could be earlier next year or almost mid next year. So why don't we go ahead and get the party started? I will get into that in just 1 second. All right. Well, I do thank you for joining me. This is the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Murph, and let's get into the data here. So the best data we can look at is the data that we have, which is the history of Bitcoin, which isn't all that long. Now, we've had 3 different halvings so far, and we've had 2 of the peaks of the markets that followed those halvings. So I'm not going to look at this peak that happened in 2011 because there was no halving to go before that. There was the inception of Bitcoin prior to that, but no halving. So I'm going to be looking at the peaks of these as it relates to when the halvings happened. And then we're going to find out that in last cycle, the peak following the halving happened a lot later than the very first cycle. Now, you probably know this already, but Bitcoin does have a cycle. We often say it's a 4-year cycle, but it's actually 3 years, close to 3 years and 10 months. And so when this cycle, we're going to let's look at the first one. And the first halving happened on the 28th of November, 2012. And from here till the peak of the next market was 300, or peak of that bull run was 370 days later. So that was the 2013 peak. So let's fast forward a little bit to 2016, where we had the second halving, and that happened on 9 July 2016. Now, if you're brand new to crypto, you might be asking, what the heck is the halving? Well, Bitcoin does print off, the Bitcoin network does print off new Bitcoin every 10 minutes, and that's called the block reward. And the block reward awards the miners a certain amount of Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So there is new Bitcoin being printed every 10 minutes. However, every 4 years or every halving, the amount of the block reward goes down by half, which is why it's called the halving, right? So what it does is it creates a supply shock. As demand has continued to increase, what happens is the supply isn't increasing as fast as the demand. Big part of the reason why Bitcoin's price has continued to rise is because as demand has grown for Bitcoin, the supply is not getting as exponentially bigger as the supply, and therefore there's a lot more people wanting it than there is Bitcoin available, and therefore supply is less than demand, or demand exceeds supply, and the price goes up. And so this supply shock happens. The aftershocks aren't felt quite for a while. So the first halving, 370 days later, was the peak of the market. The next halving, what's interesting, is 2016, that halving on 9th of July to the peak of the market was 526 days later. So notice it wasn't 370 days again. It was actually, if we do the math, it was 1.4 2 times longer that it happened. Well, what if we took 526 days and we multiplied that by 1.42? We would get the 28th of May, which would put it right here in 2022. Now, at that price, and keep in mind that this isn't going to end up hitting exactly where the peak is. This just gives us an idea, and it suggests that Bitcoin might peak out somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000. And so we're still a long ways away from there, and we've just had a big retracement. Realize we were almost at 65,000, and we've retraced some since then, and it's painful. This brings me to the second point I want to talk about, which is if you're here in this space, you're playing in deep waters, meaning there's a lot of ability to make amazing returns, and there's a lot of ability to lose everything that you have invested. And so I know you frequently hear the term, don't invest anything that you're not comfortable with losing. And the reason you hear it all the time is because it's completely true. It does a few things for you. Number one, when we're new at investing, which many people are, you often make bad decisions. And here's how it usually plays out. We usually get fear of missing out on something that's risen tremendously, and we've missed out on so much, we want to jump in and we're hoping to get the same level of gains that people that have already been holding it get. But it doesn't usually play out that way, because after a really large exponential curve, you usually get, or a parabolic curve, you usually get a retracement. So that's why many people come in when Bitcoin is at 58 to 65,000, just in time to catch the retracement. Then what often happens is they panic sell because they see it going down. They really don't know the cycles. They don't know that often even in the middle of a bull run, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Then the next time it might be 3 steps forward, 1 or 2 steps back. But it plays out just like that. They don't know that. They're scared it's going to go to 0 or it's going to keep going down, and they panic sell. Now, that is why in the United States back in the 1920s or 30s, they created the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they didn't allow the general public to invest because they were not ready to play in deep waters. Okay, I get the thinking behind that. I hate that because it doesn't allow people who will then take the time to work on their understanding as an investor to be able to play in those deep waters until they have a net worth over $1 million, or I can't remember exactly what the rule is. They become an accredited investor in the United States and have $200,000 of income for over 2 years straight. Well, that means until then you can't play in those deep waters, and it's locked out to just the big boys who can play in the deep waters. And what that does is it puts some glass ceilings. I hate glass ceilings. I think people should be able to rise to whatever level their work ethic and their education will take them to. And so realize that that's what regulators often do. And so I hate seeing, people jump in at 65,000, panic selling out at 36,000, and then complaining that there's something wrong with Bitcoin. And the truth is they were swimming in deep waters, didn't know how to swim, and they drowned, and it's nobody's fault but their own. So part of the reason my channel, there's a few different reasons I have here, but what I love to share is how investors think. Now, many of you are tuning into my channel. None of this is news to you. You've been investors in anything. Some of the people that subscribe to the channel, I know because I see in the Telegram, I do have a Telegram channel where I communicate with a lot of you, and you can find that link in the see more under the video and join the Telegram channel. And I do pop in there a couple times a day usually and interact with many of you. And I know many of you are very sophisticated, and many of you, this is your first time investing. What I love sharing with you is how investors think, because the truth is, it doesn't matter what your background is, but in order to be really good at this, you have to start thinking like an investor. And if you start wherever you're at and learn to start thinking like an investor, your results can vastly improve. Now, even though I've been investing for 20 years, are all my picks perfect? No. Sometimes I buy during a dip. I don't buy after large green candles. I just don't. But then I do a retrace. I buy when it retraces, and guess what? Sometimes it retraces further. And you know what I do? I don't sell there either. I buy even more. So I tier my purchases in. So sometimes do I look at the price and say, wow, man, I could have waited and bought a lot better? Yes, because it's so hard to exactly time the bottom. But I do hold for longer periods. So I often hold for a month on the short end, but oftentimes for 3, 4, 6 months, 18 months, which makes me a complete winner when I'm buying at during what we call the crypto winter, otherwise known as the bear market. And then I'm selling when we're in the middle of the bull run to the late bull run. How can you not win with that? So if you're interested in changing your life financially through cryptocurrency investing, well, what I would tell you is don't just stick around for this cycle. Stick around for the crypto winter that will follow. And then the following cycle, which is great if you make life-changing money and this is your first cycle. That's abnormal. Why? Because you might be new to investing. And even if you're not new to investing, you're new to crypto. And so you'll make some mistakes. Give yourself room to make those mistakes by not investing more than you can afford to lose, because you might make some big mistakes where you absolutely lose it. Number two, that you're have some room to buy even when it pulls back further. Now, if you're over leveraged and it pulls back, that's devastating. You lose sleep. Might break up your marriage. It might do a lot of things. It's no good. Just have the long-term vision. Be patient with this. If you be patient and you continue to learn and grow yourself, this will likely work out for you. That's if you can learn to think like an investor and then execute like an investor. So the principles are pretty simple of buy when there's blood in the streets, even if it's your blood. Or as Warren Buffett said, even though he doesn't seem to understand new technology companies and invest in them, his general theory is right, which is when other people get greedy, I get fearful. And when other people are fearful, I get greedy. Having said that, we've had a nice pullback from the 65,000 mark. Now, Bitcoin's pulled back just, 35%. What's really attractive is the altcoin pullbacks, because some of them have pulled back, some of them 80%. Now, that's on sale. Now, if we're really lucky, they get even more on sale. I don't know if that will play out. Like one I just made a big purchase today is on Split. And it was, now Split is one, ShopX is the other name for it, but it almost $5 after coming out from its initial DEX offering. You know, it pumped like 180x or something from its IDO price. It's now at 26 cents. I made some purchases here, and guess what will likely happen? But I don't know, but it will likely happen. Pull back some more, but do notice you're getting this rounded bottom here. And this rounded bottom tells you that often we're near the bottom of it. So it was finally time for me to pull the trigger on Split. Will I make more purchases on it? Yeah, probably. Another one I'm looking at is Freeway Token. Now, I made a little bit of purchase. Its chart suggesting some good things. There's this little W pattern here. We might be at the bottom of where it's pulling back. I don't know. Overall, I'm learning more about this one. It's project looks really interesting. What I've had a challenge for, like you, I searched for information on YouTube, and I had a hard time getting really good information because the people I heard from, it was so complicated what they were describing. Now, Elio Trades did actually a really good coverage video on it about a week ago. If you look that up, I think it was his pick number 4 or 5, and he describes it very simply. And essentially, it allows you to have derivatives of other things. So imagine you could buy a derivative of Tesla stock. So it's paired with Tesla stock. So as Tesla stock goes up, your token goes up, but you're buying it on the Freeway Token platform, or albit.io is their website. So, and this isn't live yet, you can't buy it, but imagine you could buy Tesla stock. And what's interesting, as transactions happen, there's fees involved, and the company shares those fees. So if you buy Tesla stock and other people are buying Tesla stock, those fees, some of those fees get split with those that are holding Tesla stock. So in other words, you can have Tesla stock and you can be earning more Tesla stock with that. Now, that is pretty incredible. That has my attention. Now, I'm trying to line up a chat with the team so I can get to know more what's happening. behind the scenes so I can understand it better. So I didn't make a huge buy on this because there's still more I want to be able to understand with it. Now, this is in the same space in my mind with Celsius token, which did really, really well for me. And I did sell some of my Celsius token to buy some of this, and I might be buying more. I don't know. But I'm looking at these big pullbacks and asking what is a really good buy. Now, some of the other ones I've covered in the past, EOS, I did make some buys of that. I did have been buying shadows, and you don't have to like these tokens. You definitely don't have to FOMO into them just because I'm talking about it. This is just what I'm buying. And, you know, truly it's not FOMOing in because look at this nice, beautiful rounded bottom. That's when I like to be buying. See, when it was going crazy like this, I stay the heck away. Even though I said, man, I wish I could have got into this. Now is not the time for me to be getting into it. I'm waiting for an entry like this. And this is how successful investors think. Now, I started buying, unfortunately for me, back here, actually, I need to go back further because it went way, way up higher than that. I made my first buy on this at higher. I think it was somewhere around here, just a little bit of a buy. Then I made a bunch more purchases around the dollar price. Now, I didn't know for sure this big pullback was going to happen. I didn't know how that would affect things. So this is where I make my bigger buys and have been making my bigger buys. Does that make sense? That's how I think as an investor. Now, I did start this channel just getting close to 6 months now, and I don't know everything. I don't have a magic crystal ball, and none of this is financial advice. I'm just an investor myself. I started this for a number of reasons. One of the big reasons was I was having problems accessing the projects themselves to get that really good information. The really good information I'm talking about is not private information that they are under contract not to disclose. They're not going to share that, but what they can disclose is all the public information, day-to-day what's going on. And I, as an investor, wasn't getting the reach that I wanted in speaking with the teams. So I thought if I put together a channel and I can add enough value to you, I'll get a lot of subscribers. With those subscribers, I can then get the attention of these different projects and have them come on in interviews and speak to you. If you noticed, I've had a lot of interviews lately. That's because the plan is coming together. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the reach to get, say, Sam Bankman-Fried on yet. I would love to have him on with the FTX exchange and heavily involved in Solana. The guy's a genius. He's, I think, under 30. He's worth $10 billion. And what I like about that, not the $10 billion so much, is that gives you an indicator of how much value he's bringing to the table, because wealth follows value that people bring to the markets. Not in all cases, just in most. So one of the ways to get rich in your life is find more ways to bring value to the table. And in the crypto space, look, a lot of people get wrecked in crypto. Just know a lot of people get rich too. What makes the difference? Well, the better people understand investing, the better results they have over time. If you're brand new to the space, understand there's some learning lessons involved, and you won't make every decision right, because even the successful investors that have been around for forever don't make every decision right. So give yourself room to fail by not, number one, not using leverage trades. I highly recommend against that. That's basically like going to the casino. You might as well roll it all on black if you're going to do leverage trades. It is one of the things I hate about it is in the middle of a bull run, you could lose all your money. In fact, if you were on any kind of leverage trade, anywhere up here, you absolutely got liquidated and you lost a ton of money in the middle of a bull run, because I feel like we are still in the middle of it, and that the end might be as late May. All right. Can you tell I'm passionate about this stuff? General thoughts on what's going on. I have had some recent interviews. I did an interview with Bumper Finance. Now, love that interview. Recent on my mind is this big pullback here. They are not available. Now, if we have all the way till later before a huge parabolic run, fantastic, but because that gives Bumper Finance a lot of time to have their stuff working. And what I'm excited about with Bumper Finance is essentially you can explore the upside. And let's go back to 2017 and say you're here and you bought your Bitcoin somewhere at $252 and you're at $6,000 and you don't know if it's going to keep going up. but you don't want to sell a bunch of it because you want to further explore the upside. So at $5,000 Bitcoin, you could have said to Bumper Finance, if they had existed then, hey, I'm going to lock in my position at 50,000. Now what they do is they insure it up to 90% of that. So at 45,000, you're insured. So if it retraces $5,000, hey, you lose that part, but you're still locked in at that 45,000 or 4,500 price. 4,500 price because it was at 5,000. And so that way you can hold on to your Bitcoin and further explore the upside. And you might have gotten to 15,000 bits, said, you know what, I'm going to re-lock in with them, and I'm going to change the terms and re-lock in at the 15,000. So then they're going to lock you in at 13.5. That way you don't have to sell yet, and you can further explore the upside. And you might have gotten to 18,000 or 20,000, and you would have maybe re-upped the terms with them. Maybe you missed it and then it came all the way down to 6,500. Well, that's fine because you're locked in with them at 13,500, and you could then claim it and have, you know, gotten essentially your Bitcoin cashed in at 13,500. And so this huge retracement wouldn't have hit you so hard. Really looking forward to them and their products coming out later this year. And I hope they expand the products beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. Obviously, they're going to start with the big two, and where they go from there, I hope they can move it over to things like Cardano and some of the other altcoins I'm really passionate about. Now, we have been looking at the Bitcoin potential end date for Bitcoin, right? So if that's 28th of May, just realize the altcoins play on a different cycle. And what usually happens is some altcoins pop off a lot before Bitcoin hits its peak. Though what we saw in 2017, which is really the only good cycle we have to look at for altcoins, and it's not a great cycle to look at because there weren't a lot with utility at that time. There was Tron's utility was starting to come online. Ethereum's functionality was online, although some of the use cases on it were not yet developed, but there were some use cases on it. And so we only have a few, XRP's utility was they were making arrangements with banks and stuff that were going to start testing the XRP network. So some altcoins with some function were coming online, but not a lot to look at. And what happened is after Bitcoin peaked, a lot of that money then rolled into altcoins over the next 3 weeks, completely pumped those major altcoins tremendously. And then they had a peak followed by a big retracement. And then for about the following 8 months, you would have like popcorn popping off. If you ever put microwave popcorn in the microwave, you set the timer, and even after it's done, you still have some popping off for the next 20 seconds, right? So that is how it played out in 2018 with many of these. So many of these altcoins may still pop off even after everything has generally retraced. But that's what I'm looking at for potential end dates. Now, I'm going to see at what points I'm going to start either bumpering my different positions or taking some profits, because I don't want to wait till the potential end and try to sell everything then, because what if it happens a week earlier than what I'm expecting and the retracement is gigantic, right? So what I've done before is I've tiered my sales and I've sold, say, 10% here and 10% here and 10% there, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my plan for this. I hope this is helpful to you. Would love it if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. Especially love it when you like every one of my videos. It helps this channel grow, allows me to continue spending more time and focus on my channel to try to bring you better information, growing the connections and contacts so I can bring them on to speak to you. Now, I did just upload the interview with Bumper Finance. I want to share with you some of the ones I am speaking behind the scenes. Now, I did reconnect to a network that I had from 2017 that brought me a lot of pre-market information, that they were connected to a lot of the up-and-coming projects. And I reconnected to them because I'm also thinking about what are the projects that we haven't heard about today that are going to be huge a year from now. And so in the past month, I probably read 150 white papers. There were about 15 that I really liked that either I've done videos on or will be doing videos on or sharing with you in some way, shape, or form. Let me share with you some of those companies. One is Omni. Absolutely love it. I think they're going to be a monster. Legends of Crypto game. I love this project. It's more along the lines of a card game in the crypto space. Smart Swap, I just did an interview, and hopefully you're able to catch that. Formation Finance, have not done an interview yet. Would love to. The team I did speak to for an hour, actually, I think it might have went way over and been like 2 hours. Loved chatting with them. If you think about kind of, if an index fund or hedge fund mixed with like a, well, an index fund and a hedge fund had a baby in the crypto space, that's kind of what it is. So they have ways to, some of the complicated methods that hedge funds use for risk parity, and they're bringing that into the crypto space so that people can have some different allocation in different things. I have done a video and covered it before if you want to know more on them. Tossin, Nifty Pays, Network. Now, I love video games. I don't have as much time that I play video games as I used to, but I still love them, and I'm looking for those video games that are going to integrate with crypto and literally create amazing revenues. If you think about when video games first came to phones, there was the Clash of Clans game, and they made amazing money. Angry Birds, amazing money. Think about when crypto and gaming really integrate and the revenues that are there. And so that's why I'm constantly looking at the gaming sector, because their tie-ins to crypto can create these games that go worldwide with huge amounts of money and revenue spent. So I'm always looking at that. True P&L. There's another one calling Drive. Now, Drive is like Uber in the crypto space. Now, Uber did some amazing things for being able to get rides, right? Because you can go to many countries, catch an Uber, and that's fantastic. It's a lot cheaper than taxis. It's easy to be able to do it on your phone. But imagine if decentralization could come in there, because the truth is Uber doesn't always treat their drivers the best. They've continued to cut their pay. And so even though your prices haven't, they might have even increased, but the drivers are making less and less, making not such a good deal for the drivers. What if there was something out there that decentralizes that, takes out a lot of the overhead so that drivers can make more and still you pay less? Drive is working on that, and I am very excited about that one. I will be doing a video on them later. Canumo, interesting about this space. Think about cannabis. Now, why in the world in some countries did marijuana even get illegal? Don't know, right? You know, alcohol is legal. Cigarettes are legal. I think they should be legal. Why was cannabis treated so poorly by the regulators? That's always been a question on my mind, especially when, you know, a lot of things. So I will be covering them coming up and my thoughts on that, even though I do not partake myself. So Solar Farm, it's Solana. You know, if you follow this channel, I'm big on launch pads, and it's a launch pad coming out on Solana. So obviously highly interested in that one. Chronicle, hopefully I'll be speaking to very soon. Chronicle is the next VV application with some tokenomics that I just are unparalleled. VV hasn't done a lot of these things that they have. They also have their own separate connections to other big licenses. And really the two big players in that space are Terra Virtua Collect and also VV, right? But I think this is going to be a very big up-and-coming project that will be in that top tier with those two, and they have not released yet, but they have a lot of clout, and I like their vision, and I love their tokenomics behind it. And so, no, I said Solar Farm. Solar Farm is farming on Solana and platform. Intersola is the launch pad. And then a new one that I'm looking at and reading at, just came to me through my sources this week, is Unvest, which has got its own interesting part of it. So I know a lot of the projects I'm bringing to you, you haven't heard in other places, and that's okay. And unfortunately, when I make videos on this, you know, I don't get a lot of views now because people don't understand these projects. So they're not searching it out because they've never heard about it anywhere else. But of the different 150 projects I've looked at and read their white papers that are coming up, these are the 10 to 15 that I like the best. I want to share them with you. Some of these will be complete home run hitters. I'd love to make you aware of them before it happens, not after. And that's okay. You know, there's a lot of things to be said. You know, sometimes people say, hey, J Murph, why are you not covering this? It's in the news. So hot right now. And I might cover it a little bit. I don't cover it a lot. And the reason is because it's already peaked. Now's not the time to be FOMOing in, right? I want to cover it when it's an exceptionally good deal. I mean, speaking of exceptionally good deals, I mean, have you looked at OMI lately, the Akomi token? Exceptionally good deal. Could it come down even more? Yes. When is the time to be buying OMI tokens? When it's retraced a lot. That is the V related to the VV app that I was just talking about. OMI is their token, or Akomi is the company. So now is the time that I get super excited. And honestly, you know, it's been trading at 0.25 cents. And I was buying it at 0.7 cents, and then when it retraced further to 0.5 cents, and now is the time I'm stocking up and making even larger buys, because this is how I play it. Unfortunately, I don't know where the bottom is. If I had known 0.7 was not going to be the bottom, I would have waited longer, but that was a nice Fibonacci retracement number, and so that's what I do, and then I just tier it, and that has worked out really well for me and created life-changing wealth since I started in 2017. And so I was there, experienced that cycle, learned some hard lessons and about taking profits, and learning those lessons was good. I had to pay the price of learning those lessons. Hopefully some of you catch this information, don't have to pay as strong of a price as I did, so that, yeah, because those lessons are terrible. But maybe many of you have already made some of those, and you're right along with me in that learning curve, and you're already creating life-changing wealth for yourself, and that's fantastic. I hope that's where you are, and if you're not there, great. I hope you get there. One more note, again, this is not financial advice. I am definitely not a financial advisor. I'm just an investor myself. No magic ball. I don't know exactly where things are at. Going to go exactly. I just am guessing, and I'm not always right. I'm just often right, and that's worked very well for me. So what's right for you? Well, that has to be, it depends on what your goals are, what your risk tolerance is, etc. Just sharing with you what I'm doing. Also, most of the stuff I talk about, not all of it, but most of the stuff I'm investing in, going to invest in, already have, etc. These are the ones I'm interested in. That's why I'm covering them. So understand that I buy these. No big deal. So you're like, hey, Murph, why are you pumping something you have? Well, I'm talking about what I have because I like it. And because I like it, I'm talking about it. Now, why would I like it and not buy it? Now, sometimes that's the case that I like everything I have and there's something else I didn't buy in. For one of the examples is Harmony One. I did not buy it. Loved it. Didn't have anything that I was at a sell point that I want to sell in order to buy Harmony One, and it wasn't on a gigantic retracement, and so if it was, I just would have put more fiat into it or something. And so, you know, that one did exceptionally well right after I spoke about it, and it is a fantastic project. So don't think I don't like it just because I didn't have it. I can't be in everything that I love. Just most everything I love, I'm pretty much in. All right, guys, I do thank you for joining me. I'm going to leave you with Manuela, who recorded this song for us. For all you rainmakers that are here in the space, learning, growing, not bailing when things get a little bit bloody and rough in the crypto space. All right, guys, we'll see you soon.
Success is falling, flowing like rain. The timing's right, we're getting paid. Come on, rainmakers, let's make this happen. Let all the haters do their thing. There's no other like crypto rain. Analysis solid with reviews so good. Say goodbye to the haters and welcome rainmakers. Success is falling, flowing like rain. The timing's right, we're getting paid. Come on, rainmakers, let's make this happen.